We're live.
Are we live?
Yeah. You
not
bit rusty, Andy. We are. It says in corner. We're live. Red button on.
Well, we're not live on Twitter. I did do that. So.
Brilliant.
Welcome to another seamless episode of the Hollow Chronicles podcast. We are live. I've got my buddy Shabby on here with me. This week, a Hakes auction ended that had some really unique and high-priced Star Wars items close, and I just wanted to go over them real quick. It's only been a couple days since that ended, and while it was kind of out there in the collector world, wanted to talk about it because there were some things I hadn't seen before, some really high-priced things that I have seen before that don't come up often, and I got my buddy Shabby here to chat about it with because I needed somebody to talk to about this. Shabby, thanks for joining me today. Yet again on the Hollow Chronicles.
I love it. Hollow Chronicles, brilliant. It's nice to see you back on here. Awesome. But let me ask you a question. I don't know anything about Hakes. Anything. So is it what sort of auction site? Is it just for pop culture items or?
No. Hakes is an auction house that does a wide range of collectibles. They obviously do vintage toys, figures, vehicles, play sets from all lines of toys going way back to just like the toy trucks from the 1930s, you know.
Right.
They do military memorabilia, war memorabilia. You can have I've seen them do Civil War memorabilia, presidential memorabilia, you know, like the election buttons going back, you know, 100 years.
It's an American auction house.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
By the way, they are a very fun follow on Instagram, because they do not only do they like post, you know, pictures and information about upcoming auctions, but sometimes if like they're selling somebody in the collector community's collection, they'll do a little interview and they'll post snippets of those interviews on their Instagram feed as well. So I follow them. It's pretty fun. They do interact too on their Instagram. So
right.
it's a good little follow.
Awesome.
I've never participated in you know, I've never purchased anything from Hakes, and I've never sold anything through Hakes, although Gary and I did come pretty close to putting that Italian Yoda that we had in it just to get some eyeballs on it because it is a pretty well-known collectibles auction house. Real quick in the chat here, just wanted to say hey to those that have showed up. Matt, GeForce Dez, Keith, and Coxie's Toy Cantina. Is that Kev?
Our Kev, yeah, good old Coxie.
Kev.
He bought your cantina off you and Gary.
Yeah, that's right. And he used to go by Biker Scout Kev, right? That's
Biker Scout Kev. Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, was it Biker Scout Kev? Because Biker Scout's Dario, we know that. Biker Scout Kev. Coxie's canteen.
Yeah. So anyway, good to see you guys and those that are checking us out on the rewind. Yeah, so that's what I know from about Hakes. I do follow. They have, you know, they have a big auction about every other month, sometimes once a month. But like guys like John Rula,
yeah,
he always does a Hakes breakdown, action figure grader. And I've watched those for a long time of his. This is not a copy of what he does. go see his videos. He's awesome. But this definitely had some items that we need to discuss. One thing about your brother, Cy, is that he always comments to me, he's like, you always post things that I've never seen before, you know?
Yeah.
He said that to me. And sometimes there are things that I have, and some things are just things that I see. But there's definitely going to be some items today that we're going to talk about that you're going to be like, wow, I had no idea. So
Awesome.
Yeah, let's get to it. So
can I just say thanks to Ian? Ian says here, hello boys, up the toffees, up the toffees.
I was gonna have Gary come on too, but he's gonna go see Wicked. He's off to see Wicked with his wife.
Is he getting dressed up and singing?
Oh, I hope so. I didn't ask him that.
Yeah.
Is he more east or west? You know, which
I was just gonna leave it as that.
Anyway, let's I've got some pictures here.
Cool.
Let's discuss the news.
Star Wars news.
There's a throwback for you.
Nice. It's like an old reunion.
This, before I post the first thing, I wanted to show this. I saw it on Facebook this morning. This is a list of the different prototype Boba Fett rocket firing Fetts that are out there. And I know it's a little hard to see. I will post this on our socials here after this stream. But there are different variations of the rocket firing Boba that exist. And I didn't know there were this many. There's the J slot, the L slot, there's the painted and non-painted. But these are, let's see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's 12 different versions. There's front and back images of them. 12 different versions of this, of a prototype, of at least one of these kinds of prototypes out there. So when we talk about the rarity and scarcity of the rocket firing Boba Fett, some of these have like 2 or 3 versions. So it's not like there's only these 12. There's probably more like, I don't know, between 50 and 70 total of these different kinds, but some are more desirable than others. And I mention that because there was one that went up for sale on the Hakes site. And this was an L slotted prototype of the rocket firing Boba Fett. And Shabby, do you have an idea of what this might have gone for in this auction?
I don't know. $1 million? Was it $1 million?
No, there hasn't been $1 million figure. The most we've seen spent on a figure is a rocket firing Fett. I believe it was a J slotted. And that was around $200,000.
Which is the one that just sold then, that was in the big thing. That was $1 million, wasn't it?
I don't think so. I don't
big
think
acrylic package or something. It was acrylic with all the parts in it.
Yeah.
Wow. A minute. $200,000.
Yeah. This one specifically sold for $114,224.
What the fuck?
I know.
I wanted to file real rockets for that.
Yeah.
Oh.
Shabby, do you know the difference between what a J slot and an L slot is?
Yeah, it's the back of it here, isn't it? One loops like so. So the catch comes up and one just goes across and you press it across.
Yeah, this is the L slot. Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. Now, let me ask you a question on those prototypes. Were they all made by different companies like Meccano, Palitoy, Gaslight, or were they all Kenner? All those prototypes were Kenner.
Kenner. These are Kenner prototypes.
So all 12 of them were Kenner.
Yeah. Yeah, I know Gary was watching I know Gary was watching this auction too.
Was it? £7.50. Well, close nowadays. Close.
VTR thinks there might have been $1 million one as well.
Yeah, I'm sure you put something up about a month ago, and I'm sure it sold for like 1 point something million.
Actually, yeah, I did post something about it, didn't I?
It's a good job I'm on. It's a good job I'm on. You know
Yeah,
what I
it
mean?
is. Oh man,
114,000.
unrelated, but there's $1 million purchase.
Wow.
Interesting. So anyway, this is unpainted L slot rocket firing, 114,000 plus the auction premium, which I believe is 18% added on top.
Now, those 12 you've just shown right there, are they actually out there then? Because I was always under the illusion there's only a couple of rocket firing Boba Fett's, because I know they weren't sold retail and so forth. But
well, none of them obviously made it past prototype. But there's at least one, obviously in the picture, there's at least one of each of those 12 that were posted.
Yeah.
But there's I want to say there's the really rare one is the J, I believe is the J slotted one. And I think there's 3 of those. There's a handful of these L slotted ones. The thing is though, is that the people that have them, they just don't show up very often. And so when one does show up, it's like owning a football franchise, there's only so many out there. And so when one comes up, it's a big deal.
They are impressive. They really are. I suppose if you got one, would you want the J slot next? Do you know what I mean?
Oh,
or would you happy with just the one? Yeah. Well, I've got the L slot one. I'll go for the J one.
I do imagine that the owners of them probably know each other, at least some of them.
I bet they do. Yeah.
But then there's probably the kind too that they don't even let people know that they have it because they just don't want people to be poking around, So anyway, I thought, hello, Skywalker's Academy. Good to see you, buddy. That's where we're starting. We're starting with the big boy, 114,000. That was the highest priced item, at least in the Star Wars stuff, from this auction. And then we'll get to some of the other items like this. This isn't actually the one that sold. The one that sold was a graded version, a graded Empire Strikes Back 6-pack with the yellow background. And this sold for $2,400. It was
that's not bad for 5-6 figures, is it really?
Yeah, 6 baggied figures. It was unopened, graded at a 70 plus, and it went for $2,400.
Now, is that sold all around the world or just the States? Because I've never seen that.
So this would have been, so in the Red 5 book,
yeah,
it talks about multi-packs, right?
Right.
And a few specifically that were on shelves. Now, this one was actually sold commercially, but it wasn't sold everywhere, right? It's not a common. There are 2 versions of this 6-pack. The boxing is a little bit different on the other version, but it's a 6-pack like that as well. And while they were sold commercially, they weren't very popular, and they didn't put many out, I guess I should say.
Right.
Anyway, a graded version at 70 plus went for $2,400. And I like those 6-packs, those multi-packs. Those are kind of fun.
Now, you'll know better than me. Is that a good price for that? Do you think the people selling that had gone, only $2,400? Or would they be happy with that?
Well, it's funny because at a certain point, graded is about the same as loose, and that's right around 70. That's about what you'd expect. It's in the ballpark of what a loose one would sell. So I think that's a pretty good price for that.
Right.
Given that it's not just because it's graded, but because it's protected, and those are in UV protected cases, and and you get that for about the same what you would buy a loose one for anyway. So I personally think that's a pretty decent price.
Did you do these whole 3 movies? Like one for Jedi, one for Star Wars, one for Empire?
No, they only had 2 6-packs for the Empire Strikes Back.
Wow.
Now
Okay.
you could order different. Return of the Jedi had multi-packs that you could get. You could order them from the Christmas catalogs. 3 packs and 5 packs, and also again you got to thumb through the Red 5 book to look at all the different ones because they were in every catalog that came out. So. Yeah. So I hope you're going to say that a few times today there. Didn't even know.
Kev, I'm the same way. I've never seen that.
Yeah. And this was one that was produced for consumers. It's not like it stopped at prototype. This was one that actually was sold. So
Were these seasonal things? Was that like, oh, we'll put that out for Christmas? Or was that an all year round thing?
I don't know, Shabs. I don't know about that one.
Because that'd be good for a Christmas present, wouldn't it? I tell you what, we'll just get our Nigel 6 figures. We'll get it, you know what I mean? Because I'm the same as Kev. That's weird. I've never seen that ever.
Yeah. Are you ready for the next one?
Yeah, bring him on. She's awesome.
All right, it's going to cover us up for a second. Now, this is a shelf display. I wrote it down here. This is a 1979 Star Wars movie cassette counter display, graded at an 80, AFA 80. This sold for $5,451.60.
Wow.
So if you wanted to buy your Star Wars movie cassette, and that could be VHS or Betamax, this was probably displayed near the checkout stand at either the movie store, or mini mart, or wherever they would sell movies in 1979. So almost $5,500.
So you'd stick that on the shelf and the videos would be in front of it?
Yep, they'd be in a nice little stack.
How do people keep stuff like that? I wonder if it was just found somewhere.
Yeah, I know. It's funny because, like who saves stuff like that? I know people do now because of things like this that, are lots and lots of dollars. But yeah, it's crazy. And it's in good shape too. It was graded at an 80, which means it's in pretty good shape. So
look at that. It looks awesome.
Yeah. So not something that I have seen specifically before, although I've seen many shelf displays. Here's one that is near and dear to Gary's heart. This is a Topps Series 1 sealed box of trading cards. And that sold. Any guesses on how much that was?
A whole box of them.
A whole box. A sealed box of sealed packets of cards.
And are they the wax packets? The ones that are...
Yep.
Right, so let me think. And how many come in a box?
40,
40, something like that.
Yeah, 30 or 40. Go ahead, take a stab.
I'll take a stab. I'll say $3,000.
Oh, I knew Gary would know. There's 36 packs in this.
Right.
Box. Okay. What'd you say? What was your guess?
Around $3,000, I'd say, Andy.
If you got that for $3,000, you'd be doing very well because it sold for $8,260.
Right. So these ones are rare then. These are like, to get them in a pack is really rare.
Yeah, even just one sealed pack,
$8,000. What the fuck?
can be a couple $100. So
Right. Okay. All right.
so yeah, these are
$8,000.
$8,000 for a sealed box.
Because you see the Return of the Jedi ones, and you see the Empire. You rarely see these. Is that why?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Gary
Wow.
put a
Have
bid,
you?
Gary put a couple bids on one not long ago and did not get it. Someday, Gary, someday.
He didn't
Well,
get a pack of cards for $4,000. He went for $8,000. That's ridiculous.
I know, and if he'd have got it for $4,000, he'd have got it for a deal. So, this
Wow.
there are 5. I believe there are 5 sets of Star Wars cards. This is the Series 1, the most expensive of the 5. They drop down in price the further you go down, and then the Empire Strikes Back has a few, and then the Return of the Jedi has a few as well. And the newer you get, the less expensive they are.
This is why, can I just say something? This is why I've always been conflicted, me, Andrew, about when people do these documentaries with them and we say, oh, we had no idea it'd be as big as it did. I always think we did, because, just to keep a box of bubblegum cards or a display thing, and you can still get them now in pristine condition, they must have thought back then, these could be worth a bit here. Well, not necessarily the people that made the film, but the people that watched it probably thought, oh, I might hold on to some of this, because the stuff you find, like you just said, this is over 50 years old and it's still bubblegum cards in a box.
Well, I guess the only thing that I would say to support that claim, Shabby, is that we've had, like, baseball cards have been extremely popular for over 100 years.
Yeah.
In the States. And the popularity of getting them, seeing which ones you got, trading them, keeping them, putting them in little sleeves and trying to keep them in nice shape. Like, that's been a thing for a long time. And so, it would make sense that maybe somebody along the way said, well, hey, maybe these movie cards will be as popular as the athletic cards, because we've had basketball and football and baseball cards in the States for a long time. And while those have, been popular and less popular and then popular again, and they've kind of fluctuated over the century, it's not crazy to think that somebody would connect that to these kinds of cards too. So, but then you got those that are just like, well, they had some old stock and it just got left on a shelf, and then
yeah, it's crazy.
40
so
years
$8,000 for these, is that a good price then? Did that sold for a really good price?
That's the most I've seen. I'm not as versed in Star Wars trading cards as other people like Gary, so I wouldn't be able to tell you if that was a good deal or not. That seems high. That seems like the highest I've seen it. But again, I wouldn't know. So
I agree with you there, Kev. Panini 85. Yeah, I definitely agree with you there.
So Gary says 10,000 is about average, and maybe this is another topic for another time, but the prices for things has come down post-COVID.
Right.
And so, you see that, I would say for things that aren't more than $20,000, prices haven't come down, but those rare items still go for a pretty penny and have even increased over time. So, I guess getting it for $8,000 is probably considered a good deal. Then that would be my guess.
Amazing. If the average is 10, yeah, that's a great deal. Great deal. $8,000 on cards. Oh, brilliant. TTC.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's hit the next one.
Wow. This is good. I'm glad you invited me on. I'm enjoying this.
Okay. All right. This one, another big boy. You guys talked about it yesterday on your stream.
Yeah, we did.
This is the Brazilian-made Glasslite Droids figure Vlix. It was only available in Brazil. Was not that popular. The cartoon was only one season long and never to be made again. The figures, the Droids figures, did come out in other places around the globe.
Yeah, look at them.
But Vlix never did. There is a prototype Vlix coin because the Kenner, I guess I can show off to the side here. The Kenner Droids figures came with a coin, you can see. And so I think there might have been a plan for Vlix because they did make a prototype coin, of which I did see come up for sale last week. And it was silly money. But yeah, this graded 80, AFA 80, sold for $44,000.
44.
Yeah. So this would be your highest priced commercially made figure. Worth more than any Kenner figure. Even though it wasn't made in all markets, it was just made in Brazil.
Is that card wider than a standard card as well, Andrew?
Yes.
Is it a wider card? Yeah.
Yes. In fact, I can show you. I have a Glasslite card back.
Right. So it's wider.
It is a bit wider than your Kenner or Palitoy card back. Just for comparison there.
44 grand. Wow. Yeah, we were saying on ZSR yesterday that I don't think I've ever had a droid. I mean, all my Star Wars are in. I've got all the vintage, but I asked the lads, majority said we never really got into droids figures. Do you know what I mean? They were around and stuff. So, but they must be that one's the most. I was talking to usual Mike. That's the most sought after one, isn't it? The Vlix one.
Yeah, even the loose ones go for, between $15,000 and $20,000. So
just for a loose one, 20 grand. Wow.
And he didn't have an accessory either. Just a figure.
Oh, that's crazy. 44.
So, yeah. Usual Mike after a carded Vlix. I hope he is. Okay, let's see. What's next? All right, let's do this one here.
Oh. Right. So okay.
This is a very well-known figure carrying case.
Yeah, I've got 5 of those black ones.
Yeah, so this is a prototype gold one. There's a prototype gold, there's a prototype white.
Right.
But this is a gold one. I've
now that gold's not like the 3PO gold though, because that's more chrome in it. That's a different gold, right?
That's like, what do they call that? Yeah, it's shiny gold. But this is a prototype Vader case that, let's see, it sold for $4,283.
So even though it was a prototype, what did they make it into gold for? Was it an anniversary they were doing, or was it like the videos were coming out? That's why they made that one.
No, it's just
the history behind it.
When prototypes get made, sometimes they're just made with materials on hand. That's why in the prototype figures, they're often like white or like a cream color, because that's just the plastic that they made from with the mold. You know, later they get painted, or later they change the plastic to be the color of the figure. But for the prototypes, they just kind of get a mold of what to show, and then like you get, as I understand it, you know, when prototypes are made, then somebody in charge of, you know, at Kenner or maybe even George Lucas would say, yeah, approve that, no, yes, no, and then they go into the next stage, which is paint schemes and
then I wonder if they painted it like this to show the detail then, because it's more lighter than the dark one.
It's not painted. That's the color of the plastic.
Right.
So yeah, but just over $4,000 for that.
Wow. Who got their hand on that? Jeepers.
Yeah, not a lot of those out there, I can tell you that.
Now, is that the full mold? Is it's done exactly like the box then, and that will open up and so forth, or is it just like a solid piece that they've made?
Well, see, that's a really good question, Shabby, because
so you got me on. You know,
because you don't see, there are on the Vader case, there are 3 clips.
Yeah.
There's one at the
top and the sides,
and the 2 on the sides, and I don't see them, at least not from this angle. And so it could just be a solid piece.
Yeah.
That's what that's a good question. I don't know the answer to that.
It's impressive.
That's a good point there.
Yeah, that's what I meant. So you can see exactly what I meant. You see, that's exactly what I probably said it wrong. They did it in that color, so you can see all the detail and how the face looks, and if there's any flaws in it, that kind of thing. You know, to make it lighter.
Yeah.
God, I'm great at this, Andy. I'm really good at this. Tell you what.
Looks like I called the right guy at the last minute.
I know. This is it. You know, Hank should call me. Hey, Shams, what are you doing next week? Oh, nothing.
Okay. Next up is something that was commercially made in Canada only.
All right. Wow.
A Star Wars utility belt. Canadian Star Wars utility belt. I have never seen this before.
No.
Our Canadian brothers can share with us if they ever had one of these or if they'd even seen it.
So it comes with a gun, obviously. And
Yep.
that gun looks like a standard toy gun. It doesn't look like anything from Star Wars, does it?
No, yeah, it looks like a James Bond pistol.
Yeah, like that. I wonder, Andy, if they made loads of these and just changed the brand name. You know, like one was James Bond, one was Batman, one was Star Wars, but it was the same thing.
Very well could be. So the Canadian Star Wars utility belt.
Yeah.
And you can see the box is not pristine. There's some bends and nicks and dings in it.
Yeah.
It's sold for $4,543.
Wow. And what is it? So it's the belt and the gun. Is that what it is?
Yeah. Utility belt.
$4,000.
$4,500. Kind of crazy.
You see VTL's comment. If you wore that in Canada, the ladies were all yours. Brilliant.
Yeah. No doubt.
Wow.
Age 10.
So all right. So you spend it. I've never spent this type of money ever. And I know a couple of, people that watch, and I know you spent $1 or $2. I'll just say that. It is. So you're looking at stuff like this simply for the rarity. It's not a case of, I yearn for a utility belt. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
well, I think first you have to be aware of it.
Right.
You have to, there's plenty of cool things that I've seen and like have no interest of owning. So you'd like for me, it's got to fit in what I own, right? It's got to, that's why I stopped collecting kind of more of the modern stuff, because I was more vintage. Like that was just kind of more my deal. that doesn't mean I don't have an appreciation or don't like modern toys. It just doesn't fit with what I have. So like for me, if I'm going to fork out a lot of money on something, it's got to fit kind of with the stuff that I have. I'll spend money on a figure. I'll spend money on a poster. Outside of that, I can appreciate, I can admire. I could even say, oh man, that would be awesome to own something like that. But will I pursue it? Probably not. Like that Canadian utility belt would be awesome to have, but it doesn't really go with anything that I have in here. Now, for some people,
so it's hard to put a price on stuff like that, then, isn't it? Like it's whatever people want to bid up to, then.
Yeah. So obviously, Shabs, things are only worth what people are willing to pay for it, right?
Yeah.
The market for something like that is probably pretty narrow, right? The kind of Star Wars collector or vintage toy collector that would want something like that is probably pretty narrow. But the small handful of people that would like something like that will pay up.
All fighting for it. Yeah.
So it's kind of like, same with the rocket firing Bobas, right? The people that are in a position to buy something like that is probably pretty small.
Yeah.
But because they're in that position, it'll get bid up, every time. If it's just two people, right? People will fight to get one of those because it's not only is it awesome, it's a centerpiece item, and it's like a piece of art that will only appreciate, so crazy stuff. Crazy.
It's been great so far, pal. Yeah, you're right. Half this stuff I've never bloody seen before.
Yeah. Wonder if the buyers are Star Wars fans or investors.
That's what I mean. When you look at stuff like the utility belt, like I was saying now, Dave, it's like, what do you buy it for? If you're obviously in a position to spend that type of money, but for what? For investing, or because I can't see many people out there, unless you were in Canada and you had it as a kid and you loved it. But if it was only sold in Canada, people like ourselves aren't going to go, oh, I need that, So it's funny, isn't it, why people buy stuff? What do you say the majority of people buy Star Wars, especially at this price, for investing, or the Star Wars fans? What would your opinion be?
I think something like that is, I think that's less than $15,000 are Star Wars fans.
Right. Okay.
People that buy things like a Vlix or a prototype Boba, those could be investors because, like art, if you own a known piece of art that's popular, then it's only going to go up in price. You could own it for 3 years and earn a profit on it if you wanted to sell it. It could be a short-term or a long-term investment, but those really high-priced items appreciate, and they have a history of appreciating. So I think in those really high-priced items, those $100,000 things like that will entice people that maybe aren't Star Wars people just because of the allure around it, like a good piece of art. So
that's what they've become, the one that, that makes perfect sense what you're saying.
Funny story. I had a Yasmin Bleeth Baywatch poster.
Yeah.
And when I was probably about 16, yeah.
Oh, God. Brilliant.
And Connor's in the chat. Welcome, Connor.
Yes. I like Gary Moore's thing. Then I have no interest, and then I do.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, yeah, okay, that'll.
Sometimes
I need that. Oh, brilliant.
Sometimes that's just how it goes.
Oh.
All right, here's a prototype item that never got produced.
So this is for the 12-inch figures, right?
This is a box
for
the 12-inch Han Hoth figure.
So they've got a picture of the figure out there, but it was never produced, this bad boy.
Right. And you'll forgive me if I took this picture off of the computer. It's a little blurry, but that's, if they were going to make the box for it, then they were probably going to make the figure for it as well. And so this is a zoomed in picture of the 12-inch Hoth Han figure that they would have made had it gotten approval.
Right. So there's no because obviously they've made one there. There it is. And it's not like the Rocket Fire Boba Fett. You cannot find this bad boy at all.
It exists somewhere.
Yeah.
Maybe it got destroyed. I don't know. But yeah, at one point there was at least one of these that they made for the box, because it got to pre-production but never got into production. So
right. So the box came out. Now, before you tell me the price of this, I'm trying to think, because would you want to pay so much money for a box even though the figure was never made? Would that entice you more, that, Andy? Then say, for example, if you got the Boba Fett and the box is there, they made that. So the box will probably be expensive, but would this be more because the figure wasn't made, or would it be less because the figure wasn't made? What do you think?
Well, here's a thought. Because the box can be flattened and put into a frame,
right?
That might entice not only like the prototype collectors, the Star Wars prototype collectors, but it might entice like art collector, poster collectors too, Star Wars art and poster, because you can display it. It doesn't have to take up, necessarily 3-dimensional space on a shelf. You can just put it in a frame and hang it on a wall, although that takes some space too. But
how much does an average box one of these cost? So say, for example, you found a Boba Fett box or something. How much is one of them?
So if you have a boxed Boba Fett, it's
just the box, Andrew. Just the box.
Just the box. If it's in good shape, $200.
Then I'm going 1,800 for that bad boy. 1,800.
Okay. All right. You're almost off by a factor of 10.
Oh, what was it?
So this sold for $12,302.
Look at me doing all the research first of all. Like Boba Fett boxes this, and it wasn't made. $12,000. Oh, grief, man.
Yeah, and then again, that's the zoomed in picture of what the figure would have been. But I think that would have been a but by Empire Strikes Back, they weren't really making. They made 2 Empire Strikes Back 12-inch figures. It was IG-88 and Boba Fett. But that was kind of it. That was the end of the line. Boba Fett was popular. IG-88 was not. The 3 3/4-inch figures were dominating the landscape. I think they just pulled the plug on 12 inches.
Yeah, because when you go to conventions, whatever, you can buy the loose 12 inches, but they're not mega pricey. They're not like out of this world. 12 grand for that. What the France? That has blown me away. I think that's the one that has blown me away. Wow.
Yeah. I'm just scrolling through the chat here real quick.
I should have known as well, because I remember the Power of the Force one that came with the Tauntaun. That's gone up in price now, because you could get that roughly for around $40-50 at one time. Now it's gone way up, But I never thought that was much interesting. 12-inch stuff. I never knew. Wow. Impressive.
Speaking of 12-inch prototypes.
Yeah. Wow.
Here was a Bespin gowned 12-inch prototype Leia.
Was all this from the same collector that sold at Hakes, Andrew? Or was it all different people that threw it in?
I don't know that. I don't know the answer to that.
Because this is I've never seen that either. That's amazing.
What do you think of it?
I think it's awesome. I like the 12-inch stuff. I mean, like I said, when we had Action Mans and Joe's, this was your next thing, wasn't it? So I didn't mind them. And I really like that.
Yeah, and it's the same. I mean, it's the same Leia mold, but
oh, it is. So that's the same face that's on the New Hope layer, if you will, for 12-inch.
Yeah. Again, this was just prototype, so The hairstyle is different, and obviously the costuming. You have an estimated price for this, Shabby?
Yeah, go on. I have. Right, let me think. Right, a box was 12 grand. Right, this is a figure that was never. How hard is this to get hold of? There's only one or two of these prototypes out.
Very, very hard.
Right.
Again, I had never seen this thing before this auction. I didn't even know it existed. There's probably a lot of prototype stuff that I never knew existed, but
right. I'm doing really well on my guesses so far. I think I've got 1 out of 10 so far. Right. So my guess is this: if a Vlix went for 44, the box went for 12. That I would say $23,000.
You know, Shabby, that's not a terrible guess.
Right.
If you switch the 2 and the 3,
$32,000.
$32,450, not including the auction premium.
$32,000.
Yeah.
Would you spend $32,000 on that if you had the money?
If I had the money, that's not really my thing. The 12-inch dolls, Barbie dolls. No, I mean that's never. No, it's not. That's not my thing. But I mean, it is cool though.
It's really cool. Yeah, I don't know whether it's $32,000 cool, Andrew, but it's cool.
Funny what people will do when they think they've got a one-of-one item.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's nothing to really compare that to. It's just a matter of how bad do you want it, And so, VTR says seems like an investor buy. It very well could be, something like that, because there are definitely doll collectors out there. And this is a very desirable genre, character, and it is rare beyond compare. So
yeah, Gary said before there is interesting 12-inch, so $32,000. Wow.
Okay, I've got one more picture, and then we can talk about a couple of the other things that I don't have pictures worth a minute to discuss. Right. This was the last picture that I took. So this is what's called a salesman sample. And the thinking behind a salesman sample is that salesmen from Kenner would go pitch products to businesses, to have them put these in their stores. And this is an example, not an actual thing that they made, but an example of a salesman sample. And there's a lot going on in this. First of all, it's Empire Strikes Back with a walrus man on the logo, or on the card, excuse me. So it's kind of a second generation card that has the free Forlom offer on it, but has a Return of the Jedi figure in it. However, it's got a white cape instead of its, tannish, grayish cape. So it's, it's unpunched, which that adds. There is a little bit of peeling off on the upper left there, but yeah, a salesman sample, graded AFA 70, walrus man, but Bib Fortuna figure, but with a white cape. I mean, there's a lot of unique characters.
Yeah. So they just threw them together, basically, these salesman samples. Oh, I'll take that, put it together, and it wasn't. Because on that, you've got everything, haven't you? Bib Fortuna, Walrus Man, Forlom, Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah. Yeah. Unpunched, graded, clear bubble. And the salesman samples, I've seen salesman samples before of different things. And they're often like mismatched figures with cards, right? That's not uncommon in a salesman sample, surprisingly. But I've never seen a white cape on Bib Fortuna. It seems weird that there's a Return of the Jedi figure in an Empire Strikes Back card back. But yeah, do you have a guess? Does the chat have a guess what something like this might sell for?
Right. Well, it came. Was there another one with Bib Fortuna? It came in like a burgundy cape as well.
Yeah, that was the Mexican made.
Right, so there's been a few different capes. So if you collected them, because I know Monkey Boy's got about 200 and he loves them. Right. And it's a salesman's card. That unique. let me think here. Let me think. I would say, Andrew, with my knowledge of auctions, that sold for $42,000.
That's it's a sturdy, definitely a sturdy offer there.
Well, that's what I'm putting in for. Shabby, can you go to 43? No, 42 is my final offer.
How do you know it's not a fake? The Providence, probably. I mean, Hakes wouldn't sell it if it was a fake. They are very thorough about how things were procured and where they came from. And so I trust Hakes that they've done their research. This sold, Shabby.
Yeah, go on.
For just over $28,000.
I thought that would be more, though, because if they're all thrown together like this for salesman samples, this would be definitely a one of one, wouldn't it? There wouldn't be another one with a Walrus Man and a Big Fortuna and an Empire card and do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Since it is graded, the like AFA, since if they know it to be a fake, then they won't grade it. They won't grade it. So
right. Well, that sounds like a good price for that then.
G-Force is right there. Yeah, nice job. You win.
I was close. Right, we'll send it to you. So it's on its way.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's true. That is true. A bit weird to sell something that doesn't actually exist. Yeah, that's a good point.
So that's the last pictured item. I wanted to mention a couple of things just for fun. Something near and dear to my heart: the Droids Boba Fett figure, graded at an AFA 70, sold for $3,000.
Is that good or bad for that?
That's a very good price for that.
Because I know the braids sometimes missing on that, aren't they? And I know there's a couple. It's hard to get one. What's the hardest thing on that?
You're talking about the 12-inch. You're talking about the 12-inch Boba. I'm talking about the Droids Boba Fett.
For $3,000?
Yeah.
That sounds cheap because I know I know you've got one. It costs a lot more than that.
Well, I would like to think so.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought that went for a pretty good price there.
Yeah.
I thought it interesting that there was a 12-back Luke, Farm Boy Luke, and it was a 12-back A versus a 12-back B. One of each of those sold. And the 12-back A was 85 and the 12-back B was an 80. The 12-back A sold for $16,000. The 12-back B sold for $3,000. I think that's a pretty significant difference, 16,000 versus 3,000. And I wondered if it had to do more with the different in grade. One was an 85 plus and the other was an 80, which isn't that far apart.
Apart from the figure, though, is one card rarer than the other one?
The A is rarer. It's the very first one that came out, and the B is the next version. I think there are 4 versions: A, B, C, and D. Again, Red 5 book explains that very clearly. So I just thought that was kind of incredible. There was that big difference between the two. Loose double telescoping Luke Skywalkers, graded at about the same, were about $1,100 to $1,200, which is a bit of a come down. That's come down just a little bit. A graded 80 for $1,200 is what I would expect to pay for a loose one.
Does the hair color make a difference on them?
Well, the double telescoping Luke only came blonde.
Right, so you can't find it in the sandy, the brown haired one. No.
No.
Okay.
It's had a regular saber.
Okay.
And the sandy haired Luke, Farm Boy Luke, came on Empire and Return of the Jedi cards as well.
Nice.
Let's see, a couple more here, and then we'll wrap up. Okay, so here are two items that were identical, except one was graded AFA 85 and one was graded AFA 80. So this is purely a 1 grade difference in the price. Everything else was the same. This was an Empire Strikes Back Admiral Akbar special offer Boba Fett on the card. Okay. One graded at an 85, one graded at an 80. The 85 sold for $5,456. The graded 80 sold for $2,200.
$3,000 difference.
There's a $3,000 difference in a 1 grade difference.
You'd be gutted if you were selling that way. Yeah, hang on a minute.
Hey.
How come you got $3,000 more than me?
Yeah, and just in my own mind, it's like, $5,400 for an 85 graded Boba Fett on the card. That seems about right in my head. $2,200 for a graded 80 seems like a steal.
Yeah,
that seems like an incredible price there. So, again, a few more
interesting, very interesting.
All of these are offered and closed at about the same time, Dave. So it's not a matter of one ended first and then the second one second necessarily. These all had an end date on Thursday. So all of these items that we're talking about, the auctions ended on Thursday. There was a vinyl cape Jawa on the card with a 12 back A card that sold for $15,576.
That sounds good for one of them, because I know you lot go crazy about these vinyl cape ones.
Yeah, and on the card, I would say that is a bit of a good price. I would say normally they're around $20,000. So to get
deal, and someone bought that, yeah,
I believe somebody got a pretty good price for that. Now, again, I think the market's come down in the last year or two, even for some of the higher priced items. But, that's a pre-COVID price, in my opinion. So
you ever under that impression that all it takes is one great TV show, one great movie, and up it goes again?
Well, we see that all the time in comic books, don't we? When Disney would pop out a new series, the Ant-Man first appearance Ant-Man comic book, all of a sudden that one spikes up, and then all of those. What's in the pop culture atmosphere does affect market value, always has.
I agree.
Two more things here, Shab.
Go on.
The Return of the Jedi Blue Sky Boba Fett. 2 sold. One at a graded 85 for $3,800.
Right.
One at a graded 80 for $1,700. Again, 85. a graded 85 for 3,800 seems okay to me.
It's got to be
Graded,
the car back then for these differences. It's got to be.
Graded 80 was 17. I think that's a really good price. But again, the Blue Sky Boba is the most common carded Boba that's out there.
Is that the one where they painted the legs at the bottom?
No, the Blue Sky. You want to see the difference?
Yeah, I know it's the one he's ordered. It's like he's on the skiff, in it, the Return of the Jedi one. But I thought I heard a story about they painted some of the, or is that just for the vintage collection they did that?
Well, there's like
one,
painted knee, unpainted knee, painted, rocket on his arm, unpainted missile on his arm. There's different versions of them, but yeah, this is the Blue Sky one. This is the most common carded Fett that you can find out there. It's still
is he still the most sought after one though? Boba Fett on card, is he the most sought after one still? What, in your opinion?
Yeah, that or the Farm Boy Luke 12 back.
Farm Boy Luke.
Yeah. Yes, sir. So, and then lastly, and I was just talking about this with you guys not that long ago. There was a Power of the Force Yak Face and a Power of the Force Anakin that sold at this auction. And if you recall, the Power of the Force Anakin and Yak Face were not sold in the United States. Yak Face was sold in Europe under the Tri logo, as well as Anakin was. They were both sold Tri logo. But to get a Power of the Force card, they made those in Canada. So any Power of the Force, this was 1985. Any Power of the Force Anakin or Yak Face card would have come from Canada. And they also include the coins. Both sold. The Anakin was graded at a 70 and the Yak Face was graded at an 80. Both sold for $10,000 each.
What, each? Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
That looks pretty good for that Yak Face, though, isn't it? $10,000 for that.
Yeah. Yeah. The Yak Face on the Tri logo. It's funny. I have one right here. The Yak Face on the Tri logo card, that goes for, a few $1,000s for sure. But on the Power of the Force card is a little more rare.
I was talking about that card a couple of nights ago with you. I was saying that it's funny because the £1.59 that's in that corner, I always thought, I wonder if Palatoy put that on. Because obviously they were sold everywhere, those Star Wars figures, from off licenses on the corner shops to your mum and dad shops to your Tesco's and everything else. But they all had that sticker price on it.
Yeah. So
it didn't matter where, you know what I mean? So I wonder if Palatoy themselves put that price on.
Well, I reached out to the one guy that I thought might know, our friend, Chocolate Chip.
Yeah.
And he said, I would say Palatoy put it there. There were so many to clear the 1985 in bins. So, like, if they were from another store, they would have had the price sticker on them.
Mine's got Tesco on it, £1.49 or something. Tesco, yeah. So,
and just for the watchers, Tri logo versus Power of the Force.
I love those Tri logo cards.
So this is European Tri logo. This is Power of the Force. This is Kenner, but Kenner Canadian had this as well, but it was written in French on the back. So these had coins. These did not. The Anakin coin, the Yak Face coin are a pretty penny. And I'm happy to share that I just got an Anakin coin.
Are they pricey, that? Was it pricey?
Well, you want to make a prediction of how much I got it for?
Yeah. All right. Let me think. So it was only sold in Canada, that coin?
Yep.
Right. Was it mass produced? It must have been.
Well, just in Canada.
In Canada. I would say.
And it wasn't the most popular figure. No accessories. Just a ghost.
then I would say that coin cost my friend $400.
That is exactly right.
It's a miracle.
That's funny.
400 big ones. Andy went, you know what? That sounds good to me. There's $400 dues just for you.
Just for me. Yep. So the yak face coin is about $1,000. So that's for another day.
How many times do they come up though? Do they come up regularly?
Have
you ever seen one in real life?
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
What do you mean in real life? I know people that have them.
You know, you've seen it at conventions or toy fairs, wherever you've gone.
Yes. I've never owned one, but someday I will. I'll get one at one point. I'll save up, and in fact, I know a guy that has one for sale, and I might just tell him like, hey, maybe once we get through the holidays, maybe we can talk about getting.
How many coins are you missing?
Out of the last 17, just yak face.
Just that one. Oh, is that the killer for you as well?
There are 62 coins altogether from the Power of the Force line. And then there are the rare ones that are the mail away ones that were like of vehicles, and they had some special categories. Those are, again, all found in the Red 5 action figure book, but those are the really pricey ones. Most of the Power of the Force coins are, $20 to $40.
Can I ask you a personal question?
Of course.
You had all those Power of the Force coins on those card backs, and we were talking behind the scenes, and I was like, oh, do you really want to take them off? Was it easy for you to take them off?
Yes.
It was.
Yep.
Why?
You mean like emotionally easy, or like
because it's like a lot of people love those card backs. They love them. You see Usual Mike and yourself and the lads picking up the card backs, and they had the coins still on those card backs.
Yeah.
Does it depreciate the price that you took them out, or was that not a factor for you? You just thought, no, I want the coins out.
So it depreciated the price of the card back. Yeah. But here was my thinking in my head. So like here's one of the card backs. This is Ramba.
Right.
So it did have the coin in it. Okay. You could see, the card's in good shape. It's missing. Somebody cut the bubble to take the figure out with the accessory, but left the coin in. They weren't. Whoever did this was not interested in the coin at one point in 1985. So, so the coin was still in it, and the coin was still in on 11 of the 15 cards that I have. And so my thinking was that if I took off the coins, then I would have a set of card backs and a set of coins. So I'd have two sets of, mini collections.
Right.
Mine at that time, the Anakin and the yak face coin, although I do have one of those now. But I still don't have a Power of the Force Anakin card, and I don't have a Power of the Force yak face card, and those are very expensive.
What are you talking about? Very expensive. What would you be happy with parting with, Andrew?
Oh, if I could find either one under $1,000, I'd be happy.
That expensive for them? Wow, that's
just a piece of cardboard. Yep, it's silly.
Because the figures aren't worth that much.
No, they're not.
No.
But I don't. At this point, I don't have a desire to get those card backs. At least right now, I'd rather get the yak face coin. But anyway, because I can get a tri-logo version of those for. Well, I already have the tri-logo yak face, but I get a tri-logo Anakin for probably under $100, and that would satisfy that itch in my mind. But because I want to my goal is to have a card back of every figure, and I almost do now, including droids and Ewoks. So, but anyway, my thinking was that if I have a set of coins and then a set of card backs, I would have two little collections instead of kind of partially you know, I had 4 loose coins and 11 coins on the card. And so that was just like, I kind of have 1.5 collections, but now I have 1 and 1. And so it was really easy. I just took a little X-Acto knife, cut around the edge, pulled the coin out, immediately put them into a case, and they're like in excellent condition. So that was
you put them in that Star Wars display case that you have. And it's nice that that comes with the space at the bottom. I didn't think they were that wide, so you could put the coins in with them.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Hey, BOE's here. Good to see you.
Hi.
Hey.
Yeah, it's funny. It's, yeah.
Yep. John does a good job summarizing these auctions.
This is up his alley, though, isn't it? AFGs.
Yeah, he's a good dude. So anyway, that's it. That's all I wanted to talk about and show. And thanks for hanging out with me, Shab.
Can I ask you one question before we go, if that's all right?
Sure.
Out of all the things we've shown tonight, Mr. Lemire, which one would you like the most? Which is the one that you think I'd love that?
Ooh. Let me look at my list here. Let me go through it. Well, I mean, it would be hard to turn down the rocket firing L-slot Boba prototype. That would fit nicely into my little Boba Fett collection. Plus, it's worth a crap load of money too. Honestly, it's going to sound probably a little funny, but that salesman sample with all the mismatched,
that was cool.
Yeah, that one would be very intriguing to me if I had unlimited means.
I'm stuck between two. I'd love the prototype Darth Vader case if it was a case. If it was a case, then I think I'd love that because that color was great. Or, and being serious here, the Bespin Leia Bovich, I thought that was cool. That outfit's so iconic. You know, and they haven't even made it in the Black Series yet, that figure. So I'd like that. That's the ones I'd pick.
Yeah. You know, when we wrap up this show here, if you guys could leave a comment, which in the auction would you want to have? That'd be awesome. I'd love to see what you guys say. And you know what? That's very on brand, BOE, that you would have an unusual carded figure if you could get one. I've seen some of the things that you have. You have some odd ones in there too.
They all have great talking points. Every one of those things, don't they? There's a story with it and what they are. So I find it interesting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Kev's with me here. Definitely.
It was hard, Kev. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it. That's all I got for you. And thanks to those in the chat for hanging out. Thanks for hanging with me, Shab. Appreciate it. Yeah,
I loved it.
Yeah, some good questions.
Thank you. It's interesting. It's interesting stuff. Like I said, this is something that's far beyond my collecting. So I find it interesting, you know, and like I say, things like that 12-inch box that people would spend that much money on a box. You know, I find it fascinating. So no, thanks for having me on.
Yeah. Any chance to talk about things that you've never seen before, or just the prices that some of these things go for it's fun. And I like doing it. So, all right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for hanging out, and go play with your toys.
Cool.
We're still going here. I didn't quite end it yet.